Yunseong Lee is a victim of school bullying and decides to take revenge on school bullies by becoming a juvenile offender. After he enters a juvenile detention center, he meets a couple of guys who bullied him at school and executes his plan accordingly. However, there is one person who is yet to be avenged. Against these products of a failed judicial system, Yunseong's path begins. This series contains strong themes and graphic depictions of violence, sexual harassment, and self-harm. Suitable only for mature audiences, viewer discretion is advised. And with that, I welcome you to another first impression. Today we're going to talk about the webtoon called Juvenile Offender. And this time I can 100% say that the story is part of the PTJ universe. Probably my favorite cinematic or more like webtoon universe at the moment. Every PTJ story is set in the real world and handles very important real life problems we all most likely encountered more than once in our actual own life already. However, the stories still have some fantastical elements as well, and often escalate from their more normal beginnings into quite the big scale scenarios. So we will certainly be in for a surprise with Juvenile Offender as well. For this story, I heard that it is directly connected to the webtoon known as Viral Hit or How to Fight. But don't worry, you don't necessarily have to read that one to understand Juvenile Offender. It might however increase your enjoyment just a little bit. Our protagonist has a very interesting look. He's obviously the character on this picture that you're seeing right now. The big scar over his left eye is probably my favorite part, because the red hair, red eyes and spiky teeth are all things that I have seen before. Obviously the burn scar is something we have seen as well already, just think of Todoroki from My Hero or Zuko from Avatar The Last Airbender, but hey, it's still something cool to see. This webtoon will, just like the summary said, be more focused on revenge plots. I wonder how long that can stay fresh, or if the writer behind Juvenile Offender will change the idea as we progress through the story. Personally, I'm really looking forward to it, and have quite the high expectations. If those will be achieved can only be seen when we follow the plot for a long time. However, for today we're going to check out the episodes 1 to 6 and form our first impression according to them. Like always, I put a link to this story in the description below for you to check it out. In addition, I also put a link to Viral Hit in there if you want to read another story in the universe that is connected to the one we are going to talk about for this very video. Okay, this story was a lot. I have a lot of mixed emotions that I need to share with all of you. First of all, I wonder how true it is that South Korea is filled with screwed up laws. In a lot of stories, the Korean school system and public system are being displayed in a very bad light. And I just have to hope that it actually isn't as horrible to grow up over there and these stories are just exaggerations. Our main character Yunseong is quite interesting to follow. I cannot personally relate to him, but I know that for a lot of people, some parts of his lives are really relatable, and it's sad to say that. To me, it's always super bizarre that all the bad people get put in one place. Yes, that's what juvenile detention centers or prisons are made for, but it does seem kind of counterproductive, don't you think so? Just imagine this, horny jail. If you put every horny person in jail together, that is not going to end in them becoming less horny, right? Rather, it would end in a very different way that I don't want to talk too much about. But enough about that metaphor. Let's get back to a very serious topic. The protagonist of this story tried to off himself once in the past, and that's quite dark. If you or a loved one ever went through something like that, I can only wish you the best. And remember, there's always one person or maybe one thing that can help you push through. Whew, yeah, that was a big one. I am quite literally shooketh after reading the first chapter of Juvenile Offender. At one point I was hoping that the 49-year-old officer working at the detention center would be a nice guy, but yes, he's as much scum as the teenagers that get put in the detention center. There is not one story with a good police officer nowadays. Yunseong is savage. This is a revenge story, but because it is set in the real world, it hurts so much more. And the punishments he deals out, I might even feel them in my own bones. If all the beatdowns will look like this one in chapter 1, we will have really good fighting scenes, but that is already my standard for PTJ stories, as they work closely together with real-life martial artists to make the combat feel more alive and fluid. Something I will always hate is if a bully only starts apologizing in the face of despair. They feel only a small part of the pain they actually dealt out to the bullied one, and then they start crying, but doing it to others is okay. Bullying is just the worst. It was a pretty good first chapter, not the best one I read in recent times, but it's still pretty good. To make it a bit easier for you guys to compare to the last thing I read before Juvenile Offender, that was Shoujo Null. I also have a video about that on my channel. And Shoujo Null positively surprised me a lot. However, Juvenile Offender also is quite intriguing and made me interested in seeing how it will all develop further. Here is a fact about South Korea for all of you still watching. The most common charge for juvenile offenders is assault with 21,948 cases, and the most common type of crime is damages with 956 offenders. The biggest reason, 38%, why teenagers committed those crimes were just chance and curiosity. That is quite interesting to know, and it also is a fact that I learned because of this story. I wonder what the stats are like for my own home country. As expected, the revenge of Yunseong is not done after just one chapter. There still are a good amount of people that deserve to be tortured. The second target of our main character is even more messed up than the last. And I think that could become a pattern that everybody is just more messed up than the person before them. Even though this guy is already being portrayed as the leader, so I wonder if the other people are maybe going to be shadow leaders or something. Oh, so that's how Yunseong got the scar. That's just horrible. These 13-year-old kids are the worst. I for sure wasn't like this. Not only did the bullies, bully Yunseong in school, but they basically ruined his entire life, even putting his family against him to some degree. Humanity is just messed up. While you might think what is being shown in Juvenile Offender is a bit over the top, I guarantee you, people like that really exist in the real world. The protagonist has 6 tattoos on his chest that all have a meaning. With a little more knowledge about the story, we could maybe predict the further developments from these tattoos, as they are all connected to the ways his life was ruined. First, we can see a person sitting surrounded by flames on what looks like to be a vase. Then the second tattoo is a mermaid in front of a steering wheel. The third tattoo is 2 hands praying while holding prayer beads. The fourth tattoo is a 3-headed dog, you know, like Cerberus. And the fifth tattoo is an hourglass that seems to be filled with blood instead of sand, and that blood is slowly trickling down. In the bottom half of the hourglass, a skull can be seen, and that is slowly getting submerged by that dripping blood. And the last tattoo is a Venus flytrap. I wonder what all of those signify. If you read the chapters and saw the tattoos, please tell me in the comments what you think what they might be foreshadowing. Actually, because I read chapters 7 and 8 already after reading those first 6 chapters for this video, I kind of have an idea what the second tattoo, the one with the mermaid in front of a steering wheel, actually stands for. Back to story talk. Dirty fighting will probably be a standard occurrence in this webtoon, and the fighting gimmicks really do remind me of Viral Hit. Yunseong is just as creative as the main character from that story, probably because you learned a few things from him. However, here is a bit of criticism from me. I can see this be entertaining for a while longer, maybe like 20-30 chapters. And this is only my personal opinion, but if it continues to repeat the revenge and then seeing bullies suffer sequence, it will get less exciting quite fast. Once again, the bully starts apologizing once it's convenient for them, so you see the pattern. While the main character did suffer from all the bullying, and I won't downplay any of the horrible stuff that happened to him, I still have to ask this. Is revenge really the way to go? Sometimes yes, I guess, but I personally don't know if I would handle situations just like him. Torturing someone for 5 months is just horrifying, even as revenge. Holy moly. Well, at least a pretty lady makes her appearance now to distract from the ongoing madness. It was pretty easy to predict, and yet I didn't think about it till now. Yunseong's revenge plan obviously doesn't only take place inside of the detention center. Not every bully is there. Oh god, we're going into a completely different direction compared to the last guy, but this direction is just as disgusting. I don't know how much more of this I can actually take. Well, our next target is the type of person I hate the most. A child or teenager that acts all nice in front of adults, but actually is the biggest snake asshole towards people his own age. Target number 2 really went through a lot in these months in juvie with Yunseong. Well, he did deserve punishment. Personally, I'm just the kind of guy who would say it went maybe a tad bit too far. But now for the real question, who might that mysterious helper of our protagonist be? Episodes 5 and 6 went by a lot faster. We still saw a good chunk of violence, but the plotting and scheming was more apparent here compared to the earlier chapters. Something I have been asking myself is if Yunseong actually hates bullies and bullying in general, or if it's just a problem he has with his personal bullies that ruined his life and his family's life, because depending on the answer, my grade for him as a character will change completely. The third target seems to be more like a shadow leader, like I predicted already, which makes sense as the main character isn't just using violence to defeat him, but also mind games. Maybe we will see some mental revenge for this specific bully. Overall, it's hard to give a verdict for Juvenile Offender. It needs to switch up its formula, or the whole revenge stick could get rather boring fast. In general, I can't see this story go on for hundreds of chapters. It might be one of the shorter PTJ stories. Hopefully it doesn't overstay its welcome. If you like social commentary, karmic retribution, and all that stuff, you really should give this webtoon a try. It might be right up your alley, and it's always amazing to get more people into the PTJ universe. But for now, that's all from me for today. If you want to question humanity even more, you should check out this first impression of mine, because that Shonen Jump manga left me shocked. See you over there, bye!